What do you make of, first off, the spending debate here? I've heard from German ministers that there just isn't enough to spend on. If they wanted to spend more, they couldn't. Does the U.S. sort of swallow that argument?
I think the U.S. will again seek to prod the NATO allies into spending more, but you're absolutely right. Angela Merkel has already increased defense spending 8% year on year. The sort of trend over 5 to 7 years on just looking at Germany is already quite significant. Other parts of the NATO alliance, including Portugal, Italy, Spain, for instance, they just don't have the fiscal maneuverability to really even come close to the 2% target. I think the pushback from a lot of NATO ally members, I think, will just be saying, well, in 2014 at another major NATO summit, we agreed to work towards 2%, towards being kind of the operative word there. So I think that similar dynamic will play itself out. But of course, the U.S. is a major underwriter of the alliance, and President Trump has always stated that burden sharing was a major part of what he wanted to see coming out of Europe. So there is that kind of twin tension there, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the summit.
Arun, good morning to you. I've got this chart. You possibly can't see it, but our viewers will, which puts into context some of what we've just been discussing, the percentage of GDP that various countries pay into NATO. How do you interpret Trump's commitments to NATO, then? Do you think he's very much just about people paying their fair share, and with that in mind, he then would back the NATO alliance, or are there still questions underlining his level of commitment to NATO?
I think just recent reports coming sort of in the run-up to the summit are suggesting that the Americans will reiterate their support for Article 5 of NATO, Article 5 being an attack on one member, it's an attack on all. The Trump administration coming out and saying that they're not going to attach provisions to that is a sign that, of course, they are reiterating their support for the alliance. A lot of this trip, of this 9-day trip, has been reassuring allies really around the world about U.S. commitment to global issues and NATO obviously being the major security architecture for the region that the U.S. underpins. So, yeah, so I think it's certainly going to be a debate that Trump will continue to prod, but again, the Europeans are quite certain that they won't be able to meet a lot of that 2% threshold.
Is he, do you think, going to be able to form really a strong alliance for his kind of upgraded attack on ISIS? That's, I know, one of the key themes for Trump on this trip.
One of the key goals is to get NATO to formally ally themselves with the 68-nation coalition that's fighting in Mosul and also in Syria. Even if that's symbolic, because clearly a lot of individual members are already allied with that within NATO already. It's still a takeaway that I think the Trump administration will like to see out of it. On another issue as well, I think of concern to the Trump administration is the Afghanistan war. At least a lot of reporting in the United States is suggesting that there's quite a bit of a debate within the White House over committing 3,000 to 5,000 more troops to the mission. And I think Trump has come out and kind of wanted to see where NATO members are on that commitment. Of course, the U.S. provides 3/4 of the troops that are currently in that mission. So that's sort of another area also allied to combating international terrorism.
Yes, we'll look for developments around Afghanistan, Arun. In terms of Trump's call for more commitment from NATO on IS, we've heard that Prime Minister May is going to make a similar call for a commitment to more formally join in the fight against IS in Syria and Iraq. So they seem to be on the same page there. How much is that relationship they're going to be tested by the leaks that we're seeing coming from the U.S. administration, it seems? How much is that careless, deliberate? What's your assessment?
Even the leaks that were made public coming out of the meeting with the Russian ambassador and the Russian foreign minister were also already exacerbating tensions with European capitals around intelligence sharing between the United States and its allies. So I think clearly it will be an issue of concern, but given that the events of the past week being so much more of importance, that the alliance between the UK and the US in terms of intelligence sharing is so robust, that clearly they'll be looking to overcome that, and statements coming out of both parties are unlikely to raise that as an issue, at least officially.